have Dr. Aftab Rizvi with us. He's the CEO of the Risk Associates. He's an internationally renowned information security consultant and an entrepreneur with more than 25 years of experience. He has been involved in the compliance of the e-commerce industry since establishment and is considered as one of the world's leaders in information security audits and compliance services. His areas of expertise are technology, risk mitigation, and cyber safety. Today, Dr. Rizvi will shed light on the subject of cybersecurity and challenges to the human security. Dr. Rizvi.
Thanks, Awais. Thanks for the nice introduction, and thank you, Amna, for organizing such a wonderful evening. Even though it's a morning in Australia, it's at 2 a.m., but I'm so keen to join this. Right, so I'm sure I'm allowed to screen share.
Yeah, sure, you can share it.
Right, thanks again. Thank you very much for organizing this. It's very timely and very important. As Amar Saab already said, that we need to discuss all of these issues. And one thing I was very glad to see, and again, I would congratulate the team who has organized this, that they're trying to cover the all aspects of cybersecurity. And the title, which is, the topic which was given to me by the team was human security, challenges to human security with cybersecurity. Initially, when we think about these things and, being working so much in cybersecurity, we always feel that, there are problems, there is ransomware, there is an issue with the people don't understand, there is a problem with the password security, and so on, so on, so on. When I tried to look into this, and again, the only reason I looked into it more detail, because I was asked to speak about it, then I thought that it is a very important topic. Not only that it is an important topic where humans are involved, but it's very deep, and there's so many effects, so many impact, which we need to consider at the national level. So we have the challenge that how do we treat this problem? And I'm always amazed when I look at something by great people, and whenever, it doesn't matter what time they say, it is valid for every time. So world is a dangerous place to live, not because of people who are evil, but because of the people who don't do anything about it. So we will be in that category. That people who don't know is of a lesser problem as opposed to those people who don't do anything. And obviously the other actors which are there to create these problems, to exploit these issues, will always be there. So I think that our role is very important, not only important, but it is essential for us to act, do something. And again, Jafri Saab and some other people I can see over here, even Farouk and everyone, we're just talking about it forever, since 2004, 2005, when there was no understanding of cyber. It was only IT security we're talking about. So what is national security? Everyone knows about it. There is just to put the things in the context. We're talking about the nation as a whole. When we talk about the national security, we're not here to make some jokes about national security, which obviously that if you don't want to tell anything, it's national security, which happens everywhere in the politics. But what we are talking about here is that we're talking of the nation as a whole. We're talking of the external dangers. We're talking of the problems which the nation can have from the geographical boundaries as well as from its people perspective. So this is what we think from the national security. But when we talk about the human security, then we look at the definitions from United Nations Development Programs 1994, and it says that human security is more than the physical security we are talking about. It's not that we are threatened and someone can kill us and so on. We talk about economic security. We talk about food security, health security, environmental security, personal security, community security, and political security. Interestingly, this idea, and this was led by Mr. Mehboob Haq, and this is from the research which I did, and I was very pleasantly surprised that this was initiated by our ex-finance minister. I don't know him, but I was very amazed to see this, that there is something which is written in the Wikipedia that was initiated by one of our economists and the finance minister. So what we're trying to do over here, already Jafri Saab and Farooq have set the scene. What are the threats? What are the problems? Why information security? What cybersecurity issues are? What is happening? But the challenge we have at the moment is that we need to understand that this is what we are talking about. So human security is this much. This is the scope of human security, that we talk about community security, we talk about food security, we talk about economic security. And interestingly, everything which we are doing now, are we talking about, which is cyber, the medium has changed. So nothing traditional is working now. If we talk about economic security, our economic situations are changed. We're not talking of transactions of rupees or money and which shake hands. We're talking of the digital currency. We're talking about the digital transactions. So that means the challenge is different. Landscape has changed. Threat landscape is very different now as opposed to what it was before. We talk about health security. Jafri Saab did mention that very briefly, that there are challenges. You see that previously it was very localized. Either your family knows, or your doctor knows. Even though there was no concept of privacy in our world, where doctor may have 15 people in the room and they can ask about how's your fever now. But still, it was very contained. It was, everyone knew who is who and what he's doing and what are the problems. But the things are very different. Now we are talking of the issues, which means that we're talking of telehealth, which means that not only here, but all the records, all the information, all the prescriptions are somewhere sitting in the cloud, which you don't even know where it is. Similar thing applies political security. So just to relate these issues, that these are not the stories, these are realities. I was just looking at the last 24 hours, what happened in the world. Farooq did mention about this, but these are the headlines. Can you imagine that Russia and Iran obtained US voter data in a bid to sow unrest before elections, FBI. So these are the real challenges. And who is involved? People are involved. We are talking, now we are not thinking from the perspective of a bank has been hacked and $100 million are gone and something has happened, or Bangladesh, what happened to Bangladesh bank, or what happened to our payment processor and so on. We're talking of people. Now we are talking of the issues which are very related to the human beings, their livelihoods, their thinking, their psychology, their health, and the issues. US government concludes Iran was behind threatening emails sent to Democrats. Russia suspected of Cold War style microwave attack on CIA agents in Australia. It is yesterday's news. So not only that we are talking about that information, data, and so on, now we have got talking of real threats that, the story about it is that, obviously you can Google it, that these agents were obviously here for a reason, for business, and in their hotel rooms, there were some devices which made them sick. And obviously those devices were controlled remotely. So just think about it, that, what is the extent of the issue, where we're going. Hackers hold patient information for ransom in psychotherapy data breach. So you just imagine that, that the health is an issue from that point of view. Otherwise, if we look at it, the more usual stuff, then 200% increase in the breaches in the bank. Montreal Metro has been hacked. And now you can imagine what is happening there, not really in Montreal, but in Australia, the new metro we have, it is without driver. So you can imagine that it is all controlled by systems, and not only the networking system, but the AI systems. There are sensors, they're everywhere. When the door should be closing, when the door should be opening, and when it leaves the platform and when it arrives, and so on and so forth. So these are the things we're talking about here. Another aspect, I don't know whether you thought about this issue. Northern Beaches families bear grief at meeting over 23 suicides. This is a challenge in the Western world. We are lucky. We are in an environment in Pakistan where our culture is so strong, the family support and the support from friends is so strong that it doesn't happen. There is a problem here that young boys and girls, they just on the social media and they are on the Facebook and now they are talking and somehow they are convinced that this is time to suicide. So over a period of 3 weeks or 4 weeks, there are 23 suicides on the northern beaches, not far from where we live. So what is this? This is mind changing. This is something which we need to take it extremely seriously, that human psychology, human behavior, mind, this is all played by various factors, and those factors obviously are we're going to talk about, and everyone has discussed that most of the time. And we know what happened in Pakistan last year, child pornography and all of those crimes. These are all what are the results. Can you imagine that person sitting in a remote village can be doing such things which will be impacting the world and will be the headlines of the global newspapers? But this is what is happening. So this is what we are heading against. Why it is all happening? I'm trying to be, I was very conscious that I was given only 15 minutes, so I need to be it has to be very controlled. So what we are trying to say here, then, which has been discussed by Farooq as well as discussed by Amar Jafri Saab, that we have our landscape which has changed. We have got global connectivity. Doesn't matter if something happens here in 3 seconds, it's everywhere. We have got social media, we have got modern technology, we are using AI, and not only that, we don't have any problem of any funding. Why a crime can happen? There are three things. You know that everyone, being the background of FIA and FBI and CIA, you know that MOM principle, means, opportunity, and motive. So there is no issue of all of this. There is definitely opportunity, and opportunity is the systems which are weak, the people who are unaware, and availability of bandwidth, availability of servers, and what else is, and what is the motive? Motive can be anything. Motive can be financial gain. Motive can be espionage, state factor, states. We know that there are, they are sponsored by different states as well. So we need to consider all of these things. So then nation states and state sponsored actors, there is no ethical principles. Unfortunately, all the large corporations we are talking about, we look at whether it's Google, whether it's Facebook, they talk about ethics, they talk about their policies, but in principle, if you look at it, the utilization of AI, exploitation of the new technology against the human being, this is pretty common. I know few young men, and they are working in data science, and they refuse to work for some of the large organizations because they don't want to be part of unethical activities, because they see that how things are being treated. Can you imagine that the Facebook marketing works in a way that if there is a message which is posted of someone's funeral, his relatives will be targeted with the ads, how to settle the will, how to exchange this information, what else you can do, and so on and so forth. So, and if someone is getting married, then his friends will be getting the ads of, what should be the best gift to give. Just imagine, there is no limit. You can just think of things and that can be done. So it is very customized, it's very targeted, and this is all technology which can be used in a way which suits the large corporations or other states, but there is no ethics involved. Jafri Saab did mention of dark web. Dark web is a problem, and this problem cannot be resolved by one person or one country or one defense force. It has to be collective. Something needs to be done very collectively. It has to be some legal as well as technological, control against it. Then there are encryption and anonymizing technologies, which make sure that you don't figure out, you can't understand who is who, and that's why people can get away with asking for the ransoms and so on and so forth. And most importantly, the speed of adoption of new technology is a lot faster than understanding the risks. The example which has been given of IoT by Jafri Saab is perfect example. That that there are systems which are in place in your house, and forget about the system, forget about new technology, your telephones, your mobile phones. Just imagine if I say, hey Siri, it responds. I won't be surprised that it will respond even now. But it means that it is actively listening to me 24/7. And when I say certain things, then it reacts, otherwise they're just listening. It is not a surprise to anyone that when you go and start your car, it will tell you where you're going because of the time, because of the pattern you have, because of the understanding the tagging it has been done, that at certain time you go to office, certain time you go to school, and certain time you do this. So it will tell you exactly 5 minutes to that place or 10 minutes to that place, depending on the traffic. So we need to understand that what needs to be done. There is not always technological solutions, not at all. Like Farooq said, what we need to do, that we definitely need to understand that that we need to have a combination of people, process, and technology. So I think there is nothing new in it, but these are the only ways we can combat these issues, that we need to global cooperation, because this is a global issue. We can't work in isolation. This is not geographically located. It's not said that we close our borders. Australia has closed their borders for COVID. Yes, we can control COVID by not bringing anyone from outside. But if the virus is coming on the internet, no border can stop it. So that's first thing, which is extremely important. Protecting and actively defending the critical infrastructure. I think 5 years ago, what happened to K Electric, which is obviously it can happen to any organization, but I do remember in Islamabad, we had a seminar and we were talking about what is critical infrastructure and what should be done. Unfortunately, we just talk about things which normally nothing happens. And I had mentioned even at that time that critical infrastructure is so important that Obama has to issue executive order. No one was given a choice, and it was not enough time that it passes through all the hoops. Obama had issued an executive order so that NIST can create something which can be used not only for the public government sector, public sector, but also for the private sector with the cooperation. Similarly, Australia has ACSC, Australian Cybersecurity Center. This is a place, it is a unified, it is something which is very similar to what Canadian model is. I think probably the same model would be in UK. It's could be a Commonwealth thing. And it is extremely important that we study that these models which are working already, they do offer some solutions and they do offer some advice. We have offered so many times that we can be a conduit, we can help, we can discuss, initiate these discussions, because we work with them on a day-to-day basis, that if anybody wants some help and arrange some dialogue. Third thing is new ways to investigate and shut down cybercrime, including dark web. I must say that we need to really revamp the way we are working at the moment. And cybersecurity threats, cybersecurity crimes, they are at the rise, but the methods we have are the old methods, that how to fix those issues, how to resolve that. And sometimes that is a serious problem. And I salute all those who work very, very hard without having any or much infrastructure. They still do their work and try to find things. So that is a job very well done when I compare it with the resources we have in Pakistan as opposed to what we have in the Western world. We don't have much, I must say that. Increase situational awareness and improve sharing of threat information with all stakeholders. Farooq had the full-fledged talk on this one. So this is very critical that we work very closely with all the stakeholders and stronger partnerships with industry. We can't work in silos. We have to work with all stakeholders. And that's what ACSC is doing. That's what kind of Canadian cybersecurity is doing. That ACSC was part of Defense Signals Directorate, DSD, which has been now moved to ASD, which is Australian Signals Directorate, and that means they have involved the civilians. Previously, it was all defense initiative, but now the realization is that nothing will work in isolation, so have to work together. And the last thing is that clear guidance for business and consumers about securing IoT devices. IoT devices, this is basically, you can't avoid it. Technology is inevitable. So, जो गालिब ने कहा था ना, बस एक सबात तगय्युर को है ज़माने में. We have change. We will be getting change. We need to be prepared. I haven't discussed any, obviously, I understand the limitation of time, and the other panelists are talking about the technology. So I have purposely avoided talking about those things, but my suggestion would be that we need to think globally, we need to act locally, as well as we need to work together to come up with the right solution. Happy to have any questions if you have.
Thank you very much, Dr. Rizvi. Any questions from the panelists or participants?
A very quick question from Dr. Aftab, that all these technology we are talking about today requires a framework, infrastructure, strategy, policy. I'm really worried that we took so many years to, now we are trying to finalize the cybersecurity policy. So what is your take on it, that would it be on a fast track depending on the threat we are talking about, or would it take the normal course what we have been doing in the past?
Javizab, you know already past what we have been doing in the past. If we take the same pace, we are going nowhere. It's definitely a big issue. I think that we should take the advantage of being slow in the past. And what advantage we can take, we see what others are doing, and we adopt new standards. We adopt the standards which are already being implemented. In Australia, all public sector has been advised to have ISO 27001 certification. In addition, there are these ACSC guidelines. So ACSC, what is they're doing is that they have got different sectors. They talk about government, they talk about the private companies, and they talk about even the families. They talk about the people, how to protect these people. What is the role of the government? Role of the government is to protect the vulnerable. And who is vulnerable? We are vulnerable. Our businesses are vulnerable. So what they need to do, that they need to come up with a department or an organization which can help everyone, because it's a common problem. So we don't have to have separate arms, but we need to do something jointly which is good for everyone. So the models we have at the moment, that there are already international standards which are being employed, and it has been made mandatory to be compliant to those standards. And I have used one example, ISO 27001. There are some other standards. NIST standard is there as well. There are also other best practices which are available for different verticals of the industry. Payment card industry has very well defined standard which is called PCI DSS, PCI Data Security Standard. And more recently, as you may know, that I've been selected as a member of Global Executive Assessor Roundtable, which is PCI board. So we are working, globally to make sure that we are improving the standard and addressing the threats we expect in the coming years. So why not we use all of this information to protect? So we need to identify our critical assets. We need to make sure that who are the key stakeholders. Long time ago in 2005, we were talking about that, for telcos, PTA should be the custodian. We were talking about the financial sector, state bank should be the custodian, and making sure that they are doing the right thing and they are implementing, they are, advising them to implement security standards. State bank did do something, but I'm not too sure about the other verticals. And similarly, energy sector. Obama had said, that if you can't protect your energy, that forget about your future. This is what is happening to us, right? We can't do this properly with the load sheddings and all of those things. Those are different matters, but this is another issue, that whatever we have, we can't even secure that one. So we have to think very seriously and work on these areas and take the benefit of what others have done and utilize them as much as possible.